Welcome to the very first episode of Conversations with Baba-Maa. Today you meet my Baba, so my father, Dr. Salehuddin Ahmed, and learn a little bit about his life, his childhood, and the values he raised us with. I hope you enjoy this episode and speak soon.
One thing I learned from America is that it's a diverse situation in the country and there are diverse people in this society and people accept diversity very well. My eldest brother, he was on training in the US as a fighter pilot. He met a plane crash in Jacksonville, Florida, and he was lost in the Atlantic. One value I learned from my parents that go wherever you want, but learn as much as possible.
Okay, Abbo, we're starting this podcast. Let's get a little introduction. Let's learn a little bit about you.
Well, I was the deputy executive director in my career in BRAC, which is Bangladesh Rural Advancement Committee, which is an NGO. Then BRAC created a university, and I became the pro vice chancellor of the university. I was in BRAC for about 25 years and about 5 years in BRAC University. That's my professional life. As a child, I studied in a Catholic school, which is St. Gregory's High School in Dhaka. And then I went to Notre Dame College and I did my economics degree and master's from Dhaka University. And from there, I went to Ukraine. At that time, it was Soviet Union. I went there for my PhD in economics. And then I returned. And that's when I got into BRAC. That's my basic introduction.
Thank you for
And
that.
my name is Salehuddin Ahmed.
Thank you for introducing yourself. You are obviously my father, and we're starting this podcast with you. The podcast is called Conversations with Baba-Maa, and we will learn a little bit about you today and in future episodes because we will do this in little chunks. So tell me a little bit about your childhood. You mentioned St. Gregory's High School, but you had quite a colorful childhood with lots of siblings. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, we were 5 in the family, 3 brothers and 2 sisters. But my eldest brother, which is the 6th one, he was on training in the US as a pilot, fighter pilot. At that time, it was Royal Pakistan Air Force. Unfortunately, he met a plane crash in Jacksonville, Florida, and he was lost in the Atlantic. So we were 5 siblings together in Dhaka.
How old were you at the time of this accident?
I think I was 6 years old when he died. He died in 1953, and I was born in 1946.
And he was how old?
He died when he was 20 years old.
Okay.
He was a young man. It was a big shock for our family, especially parents. So I grew up in this family, and we were in the older part of Dhaka. Dhaka is a new part and the old part. So we grew up there in the old town, as it is called. And so we were in the family. The whole education from grade 1 in St. Gregory's to master's in university was in that house, in Dhaka, in old Dhaka. And so whatever I learned, firstly I learned from the parents, from my parents. And then I learned from my education in school, college, and university, and also then in Ukraine. So it was an interesting life, I would say. I have no regrets that I have a complete life. There was a lot of learning. There was no end to learning. And that is one value I learned from my parents, that go wherever you want, but learn as much as possible. That learning attitude came from my parents and brothers and sisters. I was the young brother, youngest. I had another sister younger to me. So everything I learned from the family. And also in school, because it was a Catholic school, and we were taught English by brothers, and they were also Bengali teachers. But primary English we learned from school. And I think English I learned from school was the foundation of my language learning. Vocabulary, of course, has increased, but the basic English we learned from school. And St. Gregory's was one of the top schools at that time in Dhaka city. Then I went to Notre Dame College, which is also a Catholic college, for 2 years. And then I did my BA honors in Dhaka University and did my master's in Dhaka University as well in economics. So I would say, if you want to define values, values are basically beliefs, that you believe in, and then you nurture. And so we learned these values primarily from the family. And then it was modified and changed, and some of them strengthened in the school. And then gradually, of course, it got strengthened. But basic values we learn from the family, from the parents. For example, my father was a disciplinarian.
So tell me more about your parents. You said your father was a disciplinarian. What were their careers? What did they do? And tell us more about
Well,
that.
my father was in the police department, but he didn't like policing as such. So he specialized in fingerprint of criminals. So he became a fingerprint expert. And my mother was not very educated because in those days, women got married very early. I asked my mother, when did you get married? She said, when she was 12 years old. So you can imagine. So she basically did schooling for 5, 6 years. That's it. But she used to read a lot, Bengali books, storybooks, Tagore's writings, Bharat Chandra's writings, all classical writings. And she used to tell us, read as much as possible. So there's the basic value we got from my mother. My father was a disciplinarian, and he used to tell us about being disciplined always. For example, getting up early in the morning and doing everything properly, and then saying prayers, for example. And then, of course, I was not very religious as such. I dodged the prayers sometimes. But before exams, I used to understand from my parents that if you don't pray, you don't pass. I used to pray just before exams. So he taught us things like honesty, sincerity, discipline, of course, and also treating people. This I learned from my mother more, because treating people as human beings is a basic learning I got from my mother. She was very kind, very kind to others and to us as well. You can imagine being a middle class family. My mother used to cook for everyone, and she used to eat last. She used to feed my father, us, and she cooked for everyone, and she managed the resources very well. So that we learned from the family. In the school also, our values got more solidified. Discipline is another thing we had in the school very much. And our teachers taught us how to read, write well, and all kinds of educational things they taught us. I remember we had a Bengali teacher. He was an excellent teacher. I still remember his name, Mr. Nolini Sarkar. He came to class and he made Bengali a very interesting subject. And that's when we learned that Bengali is such a charming language, I would say. And he introduced us to all these writers, Tagore, Sharat Chandra, Bankim Chandra, Nazrul Islam. In the class, I remember he used to be giving lectures and teaching us. At a point of time, in 45 minutes, we loosened ourselves, In between, Nolini would say, okay, now we sit up straight. And we all got conscious and sort of saw the teacher, and we sat up. And that discipline still remains in me. It's good that I have it, because now in this computer age, you have to sit up straight. And that remained.
So you talk about education quite a bit. You studied in Ukraine. You have a PhD. Your mother wasn't very educated, but she read a lot. I experienced that even when I had the good fortune of spending many years of my own childhood with Dadu. How did that happen in your household? With 5 children, a middle class family, one income, right? At that point, only your father's income. So how does that happen to the youngest child? And your older living brother still is a doctor. He's retired. He studied abroad as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
First of all, my mother used to tell us to read. Secondly, I observed that she and my father as well, they were interested so that we had proper education, school education, college education, university education. And I saw my brothers and sisters all going through good education, good school, good university. And all of us have graduated from university. And I used to observe that this is the culture of the family. It became a part of our life. That we have to study, we have to do well in studies, and we have to do highest level of degrees. That was the culture we had. Another value I learned from my mother was also from my father, but I can give an example. When I was in grade 1 in St. Gregory's, initially I did not like the school, but gradually I liked it. One day I saw a pencil, a yellow pencil, somebody left in the class. And it was a Chinese pencil, Fujian pencil. And I liked it so very much, I picked it up and took it home. My mother said, where did you get this pencil? You don't have this pencil. And I said, well, I found it in the classroom. And she scolded me. She said, no, you cannot do this. This is someone else's pencil, and you cannot take a pencil or anything without asking that person. You go back tomorrow to class, to school, and give it back to the headmaster as a lost and found. I was sad, but I learned that value from that day onwards. Okay. As I said, my father was a disciplinarian and he gave us discipline. We were very disciplined. And that remains in me throughout my life. I'm extremely punctual in everything, you know. And I saw that it was strengthened when I was in BRAC. This is an organization where discipline is very important. And I used to go to the field and our car used to come and pick us up for the field. And those drivers never failed in maintaining the time. They came exactly at time assigned and they took us to the field. So these are the learnings I got from all these institutions and the family.
So when you talk about values, and values are very important to me as well, I talk about them at work, I talk about them with my children, and now that you have 3 grandchildren, 2 of whom are of an age where they are learning actively, right? Children learn actively from a very young age, obviously, but the values that you teach them starts to percolate like maybe age 3 onwards.
Yeah.
So for your grandchildren, what are some things you would like them to know about you, your childhood experiences and values?
You see, as I said, the basic values of honesty, sincerity, time management, treating people, these are very important values. And I want my grandchildren to be like that. And your elder daughter, Imani, she learns Bangla from me. We discuss things, and in the process, I think I'm also transmitting these values. I would like them to accept diversity. You are lucky that you are in America, and I am also lucky that I came to America after so many years in Bangladesh. It's only 5 years in America. One thing I learned from America is that it's a diverse situation in the country, and there are diverse people in this society, and people accept diversity very well. Whereas in our countries, it's not that true. Okay.
So let's put a pin on that one because I want to come back to it in our next interview. There's a lot to talk about around diversity and America and the difference between that. So when you think about the value of diversity and the values that I want my children to have and what you want to see, what other things come to mind? Especially now that you've seen them, like Reese, my son, has basically grown up with you around here from the very beginning, even though he was a COVID child. But Imani has seen a little bit less of you all, like she was a little bit older when you all moved to America. So when you think about your childhood experiences in Bangladesh versus what you're seeing of their childhood, what are things that come to mind that you think we should work on versus what we're doing well, perhaps?
I think, again, I must say that it's a very different kind of a society.
Yeah.
And it depends on you what good things you would take from the society. In every society, there are good things and bad things. Okay. But this is a very, I would say, this society promotes a lot of individualism, which I don't like. Okay. I would like them to be more people centered, people oriented, and they should mix with people, learn with them. Okay. It doesn't matter what color of skin that person has, it doesn't matter what religion that person has. You should accept them as human beings.
And that's what you mean by treating people well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like that's kind of what Dadu did, my grandmother did.
Yes.
No matter what class, no matter where people came from, because we don't have a lot of diversity, so there's no like race related issue, but there is a class related problem back in Bangladesh, and it was there before, it's still there. That piece of it really is something I remember Dadu being very clear about.
Yeah.
And it's obviously in your work that came out in nonprofits. So let me maybe touch a little bit on your work with children in, your non-formal primary education at BRAC and what you do today. So I'm going to keep today's theme around children. Now you're a Bangla teacher in retirement. So let's talk a little bit about the past in non-formal primary education first.
You see, I was always interested in languages. So I learned, whenever I went to a country, I used to learn a little bit of that language. So I learned Russian, of course, because I studied in Russia. I learned Chinese. And then I went to Germany, I learned a little bit of German. When I went to France, I learned a little bit of French. And our education in the school was quite, I would say, secular, secular. And I think BRAC's children also have that kind of a secular education.
Even though it was a Catholic school that you went to.
Yes. So I thought when I came to the US, I thought that what can I do at this age?
And in retirement, because you had already retired
for
a few years.
And I thought that, and I found that children of Bangladeshi origin who grew up here, they don't know Bangla. They don't speak Bangla. They can read and write Bangla. And I had this training from BRAC, how to teach children Bangla. And I brought these books. In fact, I brought these books from BRAC for my granddaughter, Imani, for your daughter. Ultimately, I started teaching others as well. And because of COVID, new avenue for me opened up. I started teaching Bangla online. And I'm still continuing that, And I see that these children, when they can read and write Bangla, they get excited, And like Imani, she's excited when she can write and read Bangla. So in that sense, I think I'm doing this in the interest of the Bangladeshi community so that this language is not lost.
That's very important. So
very important.
What are some final words today around children before we close out that you would like to share with your grandchildren, with the children of the world, with the children you teach?
I think we should all be concerned about the future of these children, how they grow up with the right kind of values. To me, this world is very unfair to the weak, very unfair to the developing countries or poor countries. I don't want to say poor countries. I like developing more than poor. There's no country is poor as such because we have human resources. So within this environment, you have to keep attention to these children, give attention, and you have to be always looking after their education so that they do good to people, so that they're empathetic to people. Sympathy is easy, but being empathetic is difficult. And also to treat others as human beings. These are the values I think you should try to inculcate in the children of our future generation or this generation. And that will serve the purpose of making a better nation, a better human being. And it will be worthwhile to give this full attention to these children.
Thank you. And I think I found about 5 more topics for us to talk about in the next few episodes.
Okay.
And we will close out here for today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abbu.